Welcome to Philly Coco presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 63. It's a developer's journey to making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are Philly Coco, a Philadelphia-based Cocoa Heads community focused on Apple development that primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, watchOS, and visionOS development. Philly Coco's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Ooh,
good job.
Just a little slippery, but
that
fine.
List of platforms just continues to grow from Apple.
You know, I keep thinking like I should like condense that somehow, but I mean, what can I say? Like this primarily means, but not exclusively means, all of Apple's native development platforms.
Yeah. I mean, pretty soon, is Apple just going to someday be like, you know what? We can also publish to the web. It'll automatically make a progressive web app for the Android folks or something.
Oh yeah, we could do that. I mean, there was like a tweet or something. I don't know if it was on Mastodon or a post, I should say, on Mastodon or on Twitter, but it was like it was like an April Fool's joke where they were like SwiftUI framework is now true cross-platform, and you can develop for the web and Android. And I was kind of thinking like, oh, that would be awesome. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I just remember what day it is.
Yeah. You know, however, isn't that Ignite, that static web website framework from Paul Hudson? Ignite? Is it called Ignite or something like that? But it is like a SwiftUI style way of doing a website. If you haven't seen it, it's like
I have not seen it.
Well, yeah, he did the shaders stuff, right? The particle effects stuff, and then there's like the third thing he's done recently, and it's a static website builder like Hugo, but it's done in Swift, and you write it, and it's very similar syntax to SwiftUI.
Okay,
so
let's check that out.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes to that.
Is that how new is that? Very
new. It's like it came out a little while ago, maybe weeks.
Because he had another static website thing in Swift before this, right?
Yes, there was. There was who was that one?
Called like Publish or something like that.
So it's like Hugo in the sense of how you build it in, but you would do it in Swift versus I forgot what the language was for Hugo.
Publish was John Sundell's static site.
Oh,
generator.
that was John Sundell, not.
And then I think this one is called Ignite. IGNITE from Paul Hudson is the newest one.
I just saw recently there was a YouTube video talking about the weirdest inversion I've heard about having React Native using Skia. So basically React Native, instead of using native components, like when it does the sort of JavaScript bridge, instead of that, they use the Skia engine that you normally would see it with Flutter using.
Okay.
To render the UI. But they use Skia to, so instead of React Native doing like a bridge to basically build a native app, they use the rendering engine of the Skia rendering engine to actually generate the UI. And what that allows for that is to basically get the type of Flutter animations, which I didn't realize that was an issue for React Native, to get similar like Swift UI transitions and effects and blend modes and that kind of stuff. But with Flutter, you can kind of get that in a similar fashion and get the sort of UI transitions and animations. But that was a lot of it was driven by the Skia engine itself.
Yeah, we were talking to someone, Aaron, at the Side Project Saturday, Coulter and I, to a new member of Philly Coca. If he comes to the Slack, I don't know if he joined the Slack yet, but he was new to the group, and he's a big Flutter guy. And so we're talking about Flutter, and after that, I started doing some more research again. I'm like, what's the current state of Flutter? Has it been a while? I found like an old article somewhere talking about, or it was like a podcast or YouTube something. And it was they were talking about Flutter. Is like Flutter gonna be like the one way of making all apps, and like his native apps gonna go away? And I was like, and it was from years ago. It was from a few years ago, and apparently not. So apparently we're still okay. Native app's still a thing, but there's so many websites that compare the two.
Yeah, there's definitely like a war, and it's
which
kind
is
of
weird
bizarre
because it's not.
because
It's not.
it's almost like native in a weird way is like an afterthought to the React Native and the Flutter groups. So
yeah,
like there's like a contingency of like Flutter and React that they sort of have their own internal battle, right? Like they sort of like push native to the side. It's like, oh, we don't care about you. Because once you're in this particular space, native is not a thing in that world, like especially for people who commit to those platforms, right? And then so now the question is like, which is better, right? Whereas Flutter has a lot of the app size, because you have to bring the rendering engine along for the ride. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's a business decision. It's not a it's not a holy war. Like, you know, like there's advantages to all of these things, and you know, disadvantages. The best possible app, performance wise, best like having immediate access to the APIs from that are the vendor providing, being able to like make I would say the best version of an app on the platform would be the native tools, and then you do make, even with Flutter, you're going to make certain compromises to use a cross-platform thing, and you're making probably even more on the React Native side. But you know, it's like
kind of funny because like
not everybody needs to have the most polished, perfect, high performance app. You know, make more sense to have shared code base or something like that.
It's hard to do if you're trying to make a consistent app, and I think that's sort of the trappings of cross-platform development. Is that you're more likely to make a crappy app on two platforms than than a nice, well-crafted one on maybe one or the other, right? And
yeah, I mean,
it's just time and resource.
Yeah, I mean, if you do, I mean, I would say that doing native is in my view the preferable way if you want the best user experience, and you have the capabilities to do that. But I don't
know.
I also depends. The developer experience is also different too. So it's like you can learn and you can develop things on whatever platform, but they're not all equally pleasant for the developer. So, and that can somewhat depend also on the developer's tastes, or you know, as well, on what kind of app you're working on. So there's so many factors. That's why I say it's mostly a business decision, unless you're an independent person or you're doing a side project, which we'll talk about a little more today in the main topic. It's like the choice of these is kind of not even up to you per se. It's kind of like whatever makes sense for the business, you know, when you're working on it. And they're all good. They're all great. You can make great stuff with React Native, Flutter, and of course with Swift UI and UI Kit and all that stuff today.
I think what I understand about some of the modern architectural changes that they've been recently making with React Native, or React in general, that sort of the original issues that people had with React, and by extension React Native, is something that is going to be litigated with these changes.
Okay.
The other thing that's interesting is like Flutter actually had some kind of issues where like it I guess it was a known issue in the Flutter world where like they said like the startup time would be like really hang
slow
for a significant amount of time before it like sets in and like and kicks in. I guess like it's a known Flutter thing. And so that's partially why they moved to Impella, because Skia is, I believe, just strictly an OpenGL framework, or strictly uses OpenGL versus like
so much engineering effort to avoid using the native tooling. That's the way I always see it.
Mean, but, I get it. It's just it's about control. In the end of the day, it really is just about control.
And again, that control. I mean, which kind of trade-offs you choose depend on your business situation. You know, totally makes sense to do Flutter a lot of the time, React Native or Native Flutter, or any other number of things too.
Because like the React people, if you have a lot of people who are in the company that does React, then that's
part of your business decision. You're like, what skill sets we have. Like, I mean, I think we've talked about this stuff before. Maybe we'll do a whole episode again about this with like the current state of things. Sure. But there's no like wrong answer or right answer for what tooling you use. It's at the end of the day, it matters more what your, what your product is and what makes sense.
There's only a right answer for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, and for your
until
situation.
you find out it's the wrong answer, and then you redo it again.
Exactly. And if you're working
every
independently,
5 years,
right? And if you're like independent, then you can just play with whatever is interesting to you. And
yeah, whatever fits your boat.
but most of the time, it's not even up to you anyway. It's like you're gonna come into the company and they're gonna be like, "Well, this is what we're doing for this app," and someone else has chosen the tooling, and then you're like, "Okay."
How did we get off this tangent?
I don't know. I was trying to get us back onto the main topic, but we had a little bit more news to get to before we get to the main topic.
Yes, we did, and the news is WWDC 2024 has just been announced for June 10th to the 14th. It's going to be amazing. Although I don't know exactly if it's going to be that much different from last year. I don't presume it would be.
What do you mean different? Like the format?
Yeah, the format, which is basically you get a ticket to go to the Cupertino headquarters and then watch it from a TV screen in the middle of.
Yeah. No, it looks like the format is the same as last year, but the invitation obviously hints at AI being a big part of.
You excited,
18.
Aaron? You excited?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah.
Without getting too far in the weeds, because we have a whole episode dedicated for that. What is the one hot take you guys are anticipating for this one? You can go ahead, Aaron. You first.
Everything on device. So we'll see how much they can accomplish doing that.
So all the models or nothing that will be cloud based.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to handle old hardware. They're just going to just say it's not supported on old hardware. If they're going to do anything in the cloud, seems like not Apple's style to do these giant cloud-based models that use tons of other people's data.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
I think they'll probably do a mixture, but I'm really curious to what they'll do on device, to what extent they can get away with on device. But what I want them to fix is Siri. Like, I just want Siri to work just a little bit.
Siri is dead.
Either kill Siri or replace Siri with something that works. I don't care what the technology is. I just want it to be. Look, when I'm using my Apple TV here and I ask the dingus, to search for something, for instance, I'm like, dingus, search YouTube, and I give it a phrase. Like, half the time it gets deeply confused. It starts searching the App Store for the app YouTube, or it doesn't like my choice of language, and it says it's like insulted or something. And sometimes it will open. It won't even open the app up. It won't know which app I'm asking it to do. Sometimes it'll. It's just like it's obviously just reading keywords and not in any particular order.
The worst is when it doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say anything. Yeah, it'll just not work at all.
Not respond.
And so you're like, the one thing they did fix is that timers do seem to be work more consistently now than they used to. That's fine, but I can't rely on it for any kind of voice interface of significance. So that means Apple TV is really more painful to use than it should be, because the voice interface is supposed to be the convenient way you interact with a lot of the apps, like for searching, especially. It just doesn't work reliably. It never understands what I'm saying.
My rudimentary experience with Vision Pro using Siri, dingus.
Sorry, guys, we're setting stuff off.
It is surprisingly good. Like, in many ways, a lot of your interactions will be via dingus.
It just work. Maybe it just works better in Vision OS.
You just say open this app or open that, like, because you're doing a lot of rudimentary stuff when you're trying to open here, close all my apps, and it's relatively like anything relatively straightforward it'll do.
That's like OS level stuff. You're not trying to interact with other apps, which is I think where the problem is right now.
Yeah, that's where the problem is whenever I try to and whenever I'm asking it to like take what I'm saying verbatim and stick it in a search box, that's where it completely falls over flat, where it'll misinterpret my words often.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that makes it tough is like a lot of, especially the interaction components, is dependent on the application developers adding like hooks, like intents to like say hey, or these shortcut intents to like hook into, so that it provides a way to like interact a little bit better.
The intents, from messing around with it a bit, the intents framework and the thing that was supposed to replace it, the app intents, they're still very limited in what they can do. So you pretty much have to say the thing exactly at how the developer designed it, and if you don't say the command exactly correctly with the name of the app in the right order, it just doesn't work.
But I'm
Right
curious to see
about
what other like things they'll integrate in there. Like, are they going to bring in that thing that the Samsungs have? You can like circle stuff and it'll do like an image search and give you back info, like that kind of thing. And like, I mean, there's just a lot of ideas. And of course, I want Xcode to have some better like code generation and like and stuff in there. So
if there's anything, I think, is after having experience doing Flutter in Android Studio for approximately 2 months, and having that experience of like, oh, this is what really good code completion looks like.
I want code completion in
I want
Xcode
that in Xcode.
Code completion can be painful, especially around Swift UI stuff, where it'll just like spit out, you know what I mean, where you try to write something like, I want to write a V stack and I want to like add spacing, but then it just auto completes the entire signature, and then you have to like deleting a bunch of stuff. You're like, what are you doing? Like, I just want better code completion. That would make my life better.
And I'm sure there's a way to do it, but like that requires like a convoluted key command.
I can't figure it out. I can't figure out what tab, space. I've tried everything. Like, stop. I don't know.
Just anticipate what I want to.
I'm excited for that.
Right?
And
like figure out my coding patterns, so to do code completions that would make sense for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So I'm excited for all that kind of stuff. We'll see. But it is pretty clear they capitalized what word? I don't know the word. There were 2 words at an A and an I, and I don't know what they were, but they capitalized an A and an I.
Amazing.
Something
amazingly insane. I don't know.
Amazingly insane.
This is like 2 typical Apple lines. I'm sure. I know Greg Joswiak had the line, but amazingly, amazing was the first word, but then amazingly, it has to be insane. I can't. Amazingly, insanely great. I have something. Oh, that's
amazingly, insanely great. I don't.
Or you could say amazingly great insanity, and then you can get AGI.
Let me look.
That'd be a nice hook.
Apple announces it. Oh, nobody has just the ad. Like, nobody just has the ad on the news site. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
who knows? It's there was something in one of the ads that that where people were claiming said AI in it. Anyway, it's clear it's going to be AI, and so it's going to be going to be exciting.
So I have a question, and maybe a transitional question, but what do you think they're going to do for the Vision Pro? Is it going to be like a 1.5 release, or are they going to actually do like Vision OS 2.0?
Vision Pro is obsolete. Time to spend another $4,000.
I'm sorry, guys. Vision Pro 2.0.
Thankfully, we didn't spend that money.
Vision Pro 2 announced at Dub this year. I doubt it. I think they'll do Vision Pro. I think they'll call it a 2.0 update, a Vision OS 2.0 update, just because of branding.
Because I feel like there's so many things that they left hanging, right? So like there was no way to reorder any of the app icons. So that's one. The regular app icons. That's an easy fix. I hate using the word easy, but in terms of like what's low hanging fruit, that would be one.
Hard for us, easy for Apple engineers.
Yeah. If AI and Dingus higher Dingus integration was going to be one of the things, obviously that has to be an improvement in Vision OS as well. The other thing that I can think of is much more modifiers or some kind of more ways to take advantage of ARKit's hand gesture recognition, like actual modifiers that just says, I want to pinch the zoom, I want to do that in 3D space, and I want Apple to handle all that mechanic for me. Like some kind of easy way to utilize like very generic gestures, and maybe even take advantage of different paradigms. Like, how do I map a Swift UI view and anchor it to my hand?
Yeah.
And better integrations with other 3D game engines. So they're going to have to open up the floodgates, do a mea culpa with Unreal, or even have a partnership with Godot, some kind of popular game engine that is the counterbalance to whatever's going on with Unity, because Unity is
Unity kind of messed up
bad.
there with their with their licensing kerfuffle there.
Yeah,
A lot of
it's
goodwill was destroyed.
Having reread or hadn't watched a recent video about what exactly does that entail, it's not as terrible as I made it sound, but it also gives me pause of whether or not I can trust them in the future without them having the same type of like poop the bed moment.
It still has, and we're not going to go on the whole tangent on this, but it's true though that you still need to have a paid, like a pro account or something with Unity, right? Like you have to pay them thousands of dollars a year, I believe.
Just
to do it,
$40,
$1,000 something, which is a lot of money for hobbyists. And you're right. I think Apple. I mean, either Apple has to have better tools for hobbyists to use the native tools to build that kind of thing, or they need, as you said, like something like Godot or some other partnership, so that, because I feel like Apple always wants to have a story for the hobbyist indie developer. You're not forced to buy a third party, into a third party ecosystem.
Sure.
Like literally buy in order to do it. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they don't care. Because Apple, I mean, Apple always claims they care about games and stuff, but I don't believe them. So I feel like they make a lot of grandiose statements, but never really follow through.
Well, the funny thing is, like, games is like a high value product on their app store, right? Like, it's still like, if you go into the app store right now, it is the second tab from the left.
It is, but it's not like the type of games that they advertise at Dub or the technology. Like, look at how amazing these graphics can be, and we can do ray tracing. It's like nobody cares. The game's making a lot of money and do not need that stuff.
How is Monopoly Go the third most popular?
Monopoly. Nobody cares. No. Nobody needs ray tracing in Monopoly. It'll look cool if the little top hat can have light reflecting off it or whatever.
What
but
are we playing? I'm not looking at the top.
But it's not necessary.
Sorry. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, we're not going to go into any more about WWDC news, but it is going to be exciting. We're looking at the AI stuff, looking at Vision OS specifically. I'm also curious to see what they're going to do with some of the technology released last year, like Swift Data.
Speaking of Vision OS, a little bit of a side tangent of whatever the core thing we're talking about.
This week, too. Our tagline should be Side Project Spotlight, a story of tangents.
Tangents on tangents. Like tangents within your tangents.
The meme comes up. Oh my God, that's such a dated meme too. We're so old.
Oh my goodness. But I have been messing with Reality Composer Pro a lot. And it's kind of funny because it's actually, I feel like it should be like the inverse, because like a Reality Composer had at least ways for you to add events and configurations to like set up like action items, and you can actually see them in real time of how they would work. And Reality Composer Pro is like, no, we're going to take those all away.
there is a Reality Composer. I think it's like an iOS thing to view it.
Yeah, that's gone. That's no longer a thing. Like, you can't. I don't think you can download that at all. I could be wrong, but I don't. Let me check.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, let me check.
I thought it was on the developer tools. Yeah, they have Reality Composer on the App Store, it says, and they have Reality Converter. They have Xcode.
All right, so Reality Composer used to be a Mac app, and I don't see it anywhere.
No, it's part of Xcode now, right?
Yes, but that's Reality Composer Pro.
Yeah, but there's a thing called Reality. This is very confusing. There's a thing called Reality Composer No Pro that is just apparently on the App Store. Like, if I
it's on the Mac. I'm sorry, it's on the iPhone and the iPad. So I don't know if they still have those ways you can trigger events, or like not like set up events to be triggered, so that then we can programmatically trigger them. Reality Composer is available on the App Store for iOS and iPadOS. Okay, that's weird that they don't have the Reality Composer Pro. Anyway, so the point I was trying to I was getting comfortable with like basically what you use Reality Composer for is like to compose and construct your 3D assets. So you would take any 3D objects like an OBJ file, maybe you convert into what they call a USDZ file, which is like a zipped USD format. That was by Pixar. Think of it like a PNG of 3D file formats.
Cool.
Is that a good way to describe it? Maybe.
Sure.
I guess for now. Yeah, I'm sure there's a better analogy here, but for now, think of it like the PNG of 3D formats, because it allows you what it is basically a 3D scene. So you have lighting, you can set up your lighting, your camera, like all the generic stuff that you normally would set up in a 3D scene. So you can do materials, and you can do all sorts of things that you can construct and put it in the USDZ file, and then in Reality Composer you can kind of add particle effects, sound, audio tracks, and sort of construct your scene in a further thing, for which then it can be directly accessed into I guess the popular way to do it is like create a Reality Kit content bundle, which is it's just a glorified package with a Reality Composer Pro project file in there. It's basically where you store your Reality Kit project, which we can get into like now. We're back into storyboard days, baby. You thought you got away from that.
No.
We're bringing it back.
But now it's in 3D.
Now it's in 3D.
That's good. We're back now in 3D.
Now in 3D. So get comfortable with your Git projects, and you get merged. You got to get wrecked.
Get wrecked. Get merged and get wrecked. Oh, geez.
There's your podcast title.
Get merged and get wrecked. Nice.
But the cool thing is that once you've set it up, accessing your 3D models and or your 3D scenes can be done in SwiftUI either through Reality I forgot what it's called, Reality Kit View or Reality View. I think it's Reality View. For which then you just call your scene, and then you instantly get your 3D models and particle effects, and you can trigger events off of the programmatically. There's also something called a Model 3D view or Model 3D. I think it's a view, basically a SwiftUI view that you can access and directly access specific models if you needed to or if you wanted to. Yeah, so it's fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, I have to say.
So Reality Composer Pro
takes a little while to get used to, but
less useful than it was. Reality Composer Pro less useful than it was, but still solves some of the issues you'd have bringing 3D assets in. Like you're still gonna use it. But
I'm trying to so far I've been doing like ridiculously weird things with it. So like I've added like rain effects on top of like 3D models. I'm doing like rotations.
You just can't do actions. That's what they took out. That's the main
took
thing.
those out, but I think
that's in the code now.
You replace it with like you can add components for which then you can add ways to interact with each of these 3D models directly in code, and then you programmatically like you press a button.
Yeah. Apple is they've been moving towards putting everything in code for you can see that now starting with Swift UI. Swift data is core data, but all in code. Like they're trying to get rid of things like separate files.
That's the thing that I find that they lose. That's the one thing I don't think Apple. And when we talk about why people say Apple doesn't get games, they don't get game development. Because with game developments, you really need to get like real time feedback of the changes you make. So the beauty about Unity and any of these game engines is that you have a viewport that you can kind of see the game in sort of like a very basic level, like your game scene in a very basic level, and you can kind of like tweak parameters. So you highlight a model, and maybe you set it into play mode, and then like you tweak the physics or you tweak the mass of the character, so you see it bounce a little differently or it reacts a little differently. You have an animation loop of a character running. You test of how well it goes left or right, and you can kind of see it real time and tweak the speed of the character as a so it doesn't look like he's sliding, like stuff like that. You can't keep doing a build and run. You need like a hot reload, basically.
Yeah, there's no Apple provided story for that, right?
I mean, there is in like Reality Composer Pro, but it's not. It's hard to do like a fully fleshed out. I mean, if there was another wish list thing, I was like, I want a fully fleshed out Reality Composer game engine, basically.
Like compete with Unity level game engine.
Even at a very basic level, that'd be fine. But I don't think I don't know if that's what they want to commit their resources to.
Yeah, I don't know. But Reality Composer Pro, still cool.
Still cool.
And something that you're going to use for Vision Pro development. So whereas before I only thought of it as something for games. Basically.
I'm using it in terms of like, how do I, because it goes back to my, I guess if I was to do a TED talk about Vision OS or like one of those equivalent like deep dish, conference type of talks where you're trying to make the compelling case about developing for the Vision OS. One of the key differentiations about Vision OS development is that you're not constrained by the rectangle anymore. You're not constrained by the computer screen,
right,
of any size, whether it be the phone, the tablet, the PC, whatever, right? You are now, you can remove that. And it's like, wow, what the heck does that even mean? It means your view doesn't, like it should scare the crap out of you from a designer point of view, because now, you're, in a fancy design system's not going to fit.
Right.
Because
now it's like
you can change
building a video game.
Right. You can morph it into like, small components, large components, 3D models, and they don't all have to be there at the same time. You can press a button and it switches the whole view to be like 3 windows in one, or you can remorph it into like one 3D object that you're doing, like you're testing like little things about it. Like you can be much, when they say immersive, that's what they're talking about.
Right. And that's where the really innovative Vision Pro stuff is going to come from, not the ports of iPad apps. It's going to be taking advantage of the 3D world that we live in, that you can now kind of put your applications in and interact with. And we've only just begun to touch the surface. I don't have a Vision Pro, so I don't know what's currently in the App Store, but
we are literally in the crawl phases of
the crawling. We're like little babies crawling.
Like,
yes.
I mean, I'm sure the Meta people, the people who develop for Meta, is like, we've been doing this for years.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean,
join the party, but like, and respectfully,
welcome to the party, pal. GIF comes up.
Thanks for the invite. Right.
Yep.
So like now we sort of have to take what they've already laid the path for and figure out like, okay, like, is this valuable? Does this make sense? And like, because ultimately the Vision Pro, and you and I talked about this, is sort of like a glimpse into what the future of computing can look like.
Yeah, we never get to escape it. It's just constantly on our face, in our point of view, in our ears.
Sure.
Ever present. Always always interacting with the world through a computer. It's gonna be great.
Until the battery dies.
Then we're all then the generation that grows up with the vision glasses then completely loses all ability to function and just like stops wherever they are in space and is unable to move.
If we can get used to battery charging, in a day, every day of our lives, we can get used to battery charging every 2 hours.
I mean, like, it's dystopian in one sense, but in another sense, it's going to has a lot of cool applications once you have computing as something that you are kind of directly manipulating in your 3D space. There's just more stuff you can do, like more visualizations that are useful, more types of interactions, more types of software experiences. I mean, the common ones we've always talked about, like, navigation, anything you want a heads-up display type of thing for, or overlaying on reality in order to add more context. Obviously, games or 3D designing any actual real world objects. Now it could theoretically be a much better experience when you're designing, like if you design some physical thing, but actually see it interact with it in space instead of just through a screen. There's a lot of good use cases. Just we haven't seen much yet, right? Because it's still new.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, how many 3D artists or developers?
Yeah, it's your time. This is your time, game devs. All the game developers are losing their jobs right now, right?
Yeah,
right. A lot of layoffs. It's like Vision Pro, man. Take a gamble. Maybe you'll be able to be the next app thousandaire over here. He's like, I'm sorry, guys. App stores don't really make as much money as they used to. But
I mean, yeah, there is potentially, like Procreate was sort of the killer app for the iPad.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of the word. Like, what's the killer app for Vision Pro? We haven't seen one yet, right? Unless you've seen something. That dinosaur demo is a close thing for me, but I only had the 30-minute demo.
But like you said,
that was
it's
a killer
demo,
app
right?
Demo.
I think one of the things that I think will be an interesting story to tell is, like, if I could create an 3D asset in that space, right? Just to construct and sculpt one in 3D space in that world.
Oh,
right?
wow. We could.
That would be amazing.
How about an app where you and I can then recreate that scene from Ghost where we're molding clay?
You want to mold it together?
Yeah, we can mold it together.
This is not that type of podcast.
No, maybe not. Let's save that for
you know what'd be hilarious?
show.
You know what'd be hilarious? If you show up in my screen as like a ghost first version of yourself.
Yeah. I was just thinking of Patrick Swayze recently because I watched both the Roadhouse movies, the good old one and the bad new one. And and I was just thinking of him. I was like, he was in Ghost. I remember that.
Yeah, that's what you can do. You can,
yeah.
If we could figure out a way to actually give you legs,
call it the Patrick Swayze,
and like take your persona,
yeah,
and then like give your persona legs, right? And then we can just
that was God, we're so on tangent. That was a thing in the which review of the Vision Pro that I see recently where it was when I put in the Slack, and one part of it he's like he gets distracted because his persona doesn't have legs, but he in the Vision Pro doesn't show his legs, but he can feel his legs.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
They don't even have arms.
Yeah,
but they should. Well, what's weird because like you turn on immersion mode, it becomes really blatantly obvious when you turn on immersion mode, and then you stretch your arms out in front of you.
Yeah.
And then you look down and there's just nothing there.
That's what he was doing. There was nothing there, and yet you could grab your legs and you could show your hands grabbing nothing, like that kind of thing. Yeah. Which I didn't know that was actually how it worked. I didn't know it didn't show your legs in immersion mode.
No, it doesn't at all.
I never looked down when I was in my demo.
It doesn't include your legs. I assume because it just it's just an R1 chip. Well, so
now that we're like more than halfway through the episode, let's get to the main topic. let's segue. What are we? What were we supposed to be talking about today?
It's something about 9 to 5.
Oh, right. So last time, this all kind of is related because we're going to talk a little bit about for the last half of this episode. Kind of a continuation of last week. We were talking about like going indie kind of things, and we touched on like we're all basically 9 to 5 workers now. We thought maybe interesting to talk a little bit more about the 9 to 5 lifestyle, and that can go a lot of different ways. So we decided before we recorded that we're just kind of going to go anecdotal style, I guess. Mm-hmm. So Culturo, you are 9 to 5 for a little while now. And
sure. And when we say 9 to 5, we're talking like full time, not as a contractor. So that comes with it all the benefits of benefits basically. The thing that makes it interesting is because you do this as your full time 9 to 5. The motivation to keep Xcode open after your 9 to 5 reduces dramatically.
Like
for a lot of people.
Like, how do you do a side project when you're doing 9 to 5? It's basically what today is about because it's side project spotlight.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Right. So we have some tips though. We got some tips today.
You're freshly in the wonderful 9 to 5 lifestyle. How are you liking it so far?
I don't know. I'll get back to you on that.
What were you before? I thought you were working like a 9 to. I thought you were at a regular schedule before.
But I was a contractor. Oh.
Do you have to go in the office now? Has anything changed? Or
Yes, I do.
so do you have a desk, or is it like a floating thing?
Yes,
Yes.
that was a process. I'll tell you about.
So
it
you have your
later.
own desk now?
I haven't seen it yet, but
Oh, nice.
apparently
Yeah,
I
I
do.
used to have a desk, and then I got a photo from my manager, and it was just pallets of stuff was there now.
I mean,
It took our desk
it's
away.
not like a cube. Let's just put it that
I used to
way.
have a cube.
I mean, it's technically a desk. Yes.
Wait, is it like you guys have just like a desk in the middle of a room or something like Facebook
Yes.
style? Oh god,
Basically,
that's like my
yeah.
worst nightmare. That's literally my worst nightmare. Not even a cube. I used to have a cube. At least the cube gave me the illusion of having walls.
Well, the cube was kind of funny because before my current job, when I was working my first real job, my real full-time job, it was web development job, and it was like, if you remember Office Space, or
Yes.
was that the movie Office Space?
Office Space.
Do you remember
Yeah.
all the weird gray like blah cubicle lifestyle that they were?
That was my.
That
cube.
was
It was a gray.
that was
in
literally
a-
my cube.
Oh wow, my cube was a gray cube in a basement, so it was even better.
And it was pretty funny because like there was a period where we actually didn't do that because we were sort of in transition, and we kind of like had these sort of like half cubicles. You know, the ones
God,
where like,
yeah.
you can't see each other until you like stand up a little bit, or like
But it's
get up a little
but it's
bit,
not a full height
but
thing.
it's not a full height thing. But I that was kind of the more enjoyable experience because you can like turn around and be like, hey, look at this.
See, you like that. I hated the whole being in an office thing with cubicles. I hated it. The less cubicle there was between me and some other person, the worse it was. Like an open floor plan is my nightmare.
The problem is with it, is that it's hard to get really good, deep focus work done. I mean, even with the cubicles, it was hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But at least you could like isolate to like focus. At least try to.
Yeah.
I think the tough part with me is like the 9 to 5 when I come into the office versus like working from home. Working from home, at least you can say, okay, like you can block the time off. I mean, yeah, you have meetings, but like a lot of times you can say, you know what, like shut everything out, focus, and get the work done. And in a work environment, somebody's always going to walk by and be like, hey, you know, chat about whatever, right? And it could be very useful and it could be very relevant, but you just know that that's going to happen. Like you can't like zone in and get real work done because you inevitably get dragged into something.
So there's this 9 to 5 lifestyle with the half cubes and whatever the heck environment you're on. Is it that it's draining or something? As you said, it's hard to focus on things afterwards, or is it unrelated to that? It's just more related to you're just working all day, so now you got to do more work.
I don't know. You want to go, Aaron, or well, I guess you haven't really done like an office like
what's
on,
sapping
like,
your
coming in and
motivation? What's like for me? It was always the commute and like being in an office thing.
The commute would be one for sure.
Yeah.
So because it's a combination of mental and physical. So you mentally you wake up, you take a shower or whatever, you clean
Hopefully.
up, you clean your face.
If you care about your coworkers at all, take a shower.
Yeah, you take a shower or whatever, right? And then but it takes you a while to get. It takes maybe like 15, 30 minutes, right?
You gotta make sure you brush your teeth.
Get up
man.
and get out. Yeah, brush your teeth,
Oral
floss,
hygiene
all
is
that.
important.
Yeah, that's
Eat
very
healthy
important,
breakfast,
especially if you're in lots of meetings.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And then obviously you want to think about some breakfast. Either you get it here, you go to the office, or
that
get
was
it somewhere.
That was something I used to do and was not healthy. I used to eat too much, like a food truck or something on the way in.
Well, you want to at least get something that good substance. But in any case,
yeah. But anyway, you got all the morning ritual stuff you got to do, and then you got to go on like the travel time.
Right.
However,
so
it is
travel time could be anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour. Some people even an hour and 30 minutes, right? So like,
if you take SEPTA, it's just an undeterminate roll of the dice every morning. You're like, am I even going to make it to work today before lunch? Who knows?
I'm pleasantly surprised sometimes, but I don't take regional line, so I can't.
Yeah, I used to take the regional line. It was just like, okay, today I'm going to get in it like this time, I guess.
it's actually kind of interesting because like depending on which one you get on, like, you could either get there exceptionally early or like
Yeah.
arguably on
But-
time.
My favorite thing is when the regional rail. This is all very Philly specific and like
Yeah.
pre-pandemic for me. So I don't know how it's like now, but sometimes I would go down there and the train would just stop before the end of the line. The stop, like it would stop right before my stop. Like
At
literally
least you're not-
physically stop moving, and it would just stay there for like 10 minutes because everything else was behind schedule. So it had to wait for other trains to go by. Oh my god, so frustrating. You're like, I can see my destination; it's right there. So hey, commuting problems can be very draining, both
Yes.
directions.
Both directions.
So you go to work, and maybe you're like me, and you also hate the cubicle life, but maybe you love it. But you go to work, and you're not
Right.
always coming home energized. Is I guess what we're saying for various reasons.
Well, you have other obligations, right? You have to get dinner. Maybe there's some chores you have to do, laundry, vacuum cleaning, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. You're just not in. Then you have to think about, oh, I have to open up my computer, and then like get into the mode, right? Get
Yeah.
into that, like, assuming that you're doing something with programming. If you're doing art or even like that, then you have to worry about context switching, right? Ultimately, it's
I
context
mean,
switching.
we're
that
doing
you try
this.
to-
We're doing this
Yeah.
now after work today.
Yeah, it's
Like normally we do this on a
okay.
weekend for a reason.
Yeah,
But
and so I think that's where sort of trying to figure out the proper time to do it. And of course, if you have a family and you have kids, like that, all like throw your
Yeah.
side projects out the window at that point.
so how do you balance all this stuff and actually get something done, Aaron?
Don't ask me. I have no idea.
So when we say side projects, sometimes in our mind we talk about it from a programmer's point of view. Sort of like if I'm messing around, sometimes I will mess around with Vision OS related stuff because I think I need to get good faster. So I actually will dedicate some time to building things. Sometimes these even work related, but I'll at least try to build something that is that I'll find useful that I can take to work maybe next time.
I mean,
but
I was doing the similar thing last, many months this year with everything from like latest Swift UI stuff to Swift data, things like that. And then also I'll spend time research, like if there's dub videos or some other like talks or books or research articles or something I need to read.
Yeah.
And then, so that's all. It's a lot of stuff trying to fit in a small amount of time.
I mean, to be fair, I will go down some horrible YouTube rabbit holes during that period of time. So like sometimes like a side project intention will turn into like, oh, this is a cute cat video.
Yeah. So
And it's-
concrete tips here. Let's give some people some concrete tips on how to deal with those. We've explained, and I think everybody knows if they have a regular job that it's tough. There's many things from your schedule to your commute to the competing interests for your limited amount of time after work. How
Sure.
do you actually get anything done? Because you can't, because you do have limited amount of time and energy.
Aaron, you've got the answer. I know it.
Aaron does have the answer.
No, I don't. I mean, other than like, oh, I need to get a workout done. Other than that,
Well, that is-
That is one of the things,
The best
yeah.
I can
That
do
does
after
count.
work.
Okay, fine. I have concrete
That's more
tips.
than me. I don't even get one workout. Then my workout is my walk home.
Well, so I still work. I still work from home. I did my workout this morning. I love doing that in the morning. But I have concrete tips
Okay.
because I have been in the situation for a long time where I've tried to do things after work and I've had limited success, or I'll get burned out quickly. I'll make progress for a while, then I'll get completely burned out because I'm burning the candle on both ends, and then you just give up, or you get easily distracted by something else. So I would say tip number one is you need to kind of ruthlessly prioritize. Like you need to decide what is the most important like thing or couple things in your life outside your day job. Because essentially the way I see it, everything outside your day job is a side project. Because if you think about the amount of time you're spending the majority of your time during the week at your regular job, especially when you start taking into commute and everything. So like you need to be ruthless. Like what are my priorities? And I've talked about before, but I have been finding I've been finding some more success going with the Max Sparky's productivity course. And I think if I had to like boil it down to a nutshell, the one thing you have to do is you have to figure out like what, like in his case, he has like what roles I have in my life. So I look at like I have roles in my life, like I have like important relationships, or I have like The Philly Coca is one of the things. It's like a role in my life, like the stuff we're doing for that. And so I have a bunch of them up here, and they're very, whatever, they're different for everybody. And I actually do various levels of planning in order to try to use my time efficiently. So I do quarterly planning, which I have to start after this podcast because when we're recording this. But I do quarterly planning, and he has a whole process for that where I basically go through like the different areas of my life that I'm prioritizing here. And, like I have a script here, like there's questions that I'll answer, and then I go through the roles and I say like, how did I do last quarter? What do I want to do in the next 90 days? That kind of thing. And you just kind of, you write it all down. The important thing is you write it all down in a place that you can review. And then after I do this, then I translate it into things like projects in OmniFocus, or things on my calendar, or whatever, so that they're actual things in my to-do system to get to. And I also do like weekly planning. You do that, like I do like on Sundays usually, and then you do and then daily, and and I block schedule my week out, and that's in a nutshell, without getting into like all the details in there. That's what you need to do. You need to figure out at a high level, like, what are your priorities in life here? What are your priorities for your time outside of work? What is your goal? What is you're trying to do or create? And you gotta be like ruthless. Like I have had to just essentially drop, for the most part, my photography hobby, because one of the things that for years I've tried to balance both of them, and I just can't. It takes too much time to do programming stuff and the photography stuff the way I do it right now. So I wrote in my like quarterly plan, like at the beginning of last quarter, I was like, I can't do any of this stuff like right now. So I basically I'm just not going out photographing stuff as much as I was before. I'm just not doing it, except for things that like with Chrissy, her business. I'll do some stuff with like her dance studio because she's a high priority like for me. So I'll do that. But otherwise, I just drop that stuff, and I'm trying to carve out time for the side project, in this case specifically app development. So then I'm like, okay, how do I plan that? And then I am specifically using like GitHub projects to lay out with someone else, like what are things we're trying to do. Like we have to have website stuff done, privacy policy stuff, that kind of thing. We also have to get the app built, and it has to have certain features. And then it's just kind of I put the stuff in there, and I track it on little Kanban boards, and I it's a little loosey goosey there because we're not going through some kind of special process. But I meet up with him every week, the partner I'm working on this with, in order to kind of go over where we are and go over the tickets that we have in there, and what we're trying to do. And as I said, I block out my time. I do that in the day job now too, but I block out my time in the evening. So I think that's probably the most important thing you could do. Once you figure out what it is that you want to do, what your goal is, look at the calendar and realize literally how much time you have or don't have. It's not much. Even if you had all day long, it's really easy for you to fritter time. Like, you do not have that much time in life in general. If you think about it, you start breaking it down by like number of weeks, like if to be like grim about it, like total number of weeks in life is actually not as big as people might think it is. You just do the math. So when you look at like a quarter and then a month and then a week and then a day, like how many hours do I actually have? Not many. So you start blocking them out on a calendar, and that's like, to me, my calendar is a concrete promise to myself that this is what I'm doing. And so when I put a block schedule down for myself, I treat it the same priority I would like a meeting with somebody else. It's like, I'm going to do this. And when you do that, though, it forces you to make decisions, just like having a good budget will force you to make decisions, because you'll see in hard numbers, you'll see in like little blocks on your calendar, like, this is how much time I have. And of course, you have to be realistic about it. You can't be like, you block out every single moment of your week and expect it all to go smoothly. I block it out with buffer time. I block it out with like, you're not going to accomplish like 4 big things in the evening, like maybe 1. And, and if you get thing done early and you have enough time to do something else, you have the energy, then maybe you'll do something else. You have to be flexible about it. But I try to pick on, I try to look at my calendar and say, what is like the 1 or 2 things I really want to do this week? Get done. I block out the time. And then as to like how you do the nitty gritty of like your to-do management and your your Kanban boards or whatever. Like that's kind of up to you. There's lots of different things at work, and I've tried lots of different things. My go-to is OmniFocus for basically my whole life outside of the day job. And for this particular project, I'm trying out GitHub Projects just because it was free and available, and it's fine. I have issues with it, but it works fine. 2 people.
I mean, GitHub Projects is one of those hidden gems that, I mean, it's not as fluid as I would think. Like,
I know I hit rough patches. Trello is nice
because it's so stuck to it sticks its relationship to the issues.
Yeah.
Like that. As like its core mechanic,
but it's free. It's there. It works.
It's fine,
and it's fine. Like, especially if you're doing something with GitHub code.
So far, it's better than reminders, and I want reminders to be that replacement. But at the way it's currently constructed, it's not that. It's not that great.
But I mean, as I said, I mean, in a nutshell, you have to, in order to do a side project, you have to, pick something. You have to have an idea of what it is, and then you have to, plan and literally carve out the time. Yeah. And my suggestion is to essentially do block schedules, schedule it on your calendar,
but
do it.
So it's so funny to hear when you say that, because it reminds me a lot of how there are a lot of companies that will plan scrums or plan their sprints. I'm sorry, 1 quarter before the next the next quarter. I was like, wow, that's amazing. You're doing like a yearly thing.
I'm doing well, I mean, what is
quarterly
that book?
And yearly.
What is that book? So 4,000 Weeks is the book that I was reading. That is the concept, even just the concept alone is pretty eye opening. You've never read that or heard about it before.
4,000 Weeks.
Yeah, 4,000 Weeks. So
we'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. But like 4,000 weeks is, what is it like? It's like the amount of time, like if you live till 80, I think. Okay. Like that would be how many weeks you have. So if you think about like your age now and like, maybe what you expect to live, and assume you're going to be healthy and everything to that, and you break it down into number of weeks, there's only like 52 weeks in a year. There's how many weeks are in a quarter? Like 12 to 15 or something, depends, like, right? Sure. It's not a lot of weeks. So it's like you start thinking about, if you break things down by week, you very quickly are like, holy crap. And when you're talking about a side project and how much time it takes to build these things and like software or whatever, yeah, I mean, it can be demoralizing on one hand because you're like, there's just not much time. On the other hand, it forces you to make choices, and then it forces you to like whittle down whatever you want to work on as a side project to something you can actually get done in that time, because the work will always fill the amount of time you give it. That's another truism.
Yeah, I think one of the funny things is I remember there was always this conversation about how to sort of be focused and be, I don't know how to describe it, but basically like it goes back to, like, I remember my mom, who would be very good about completing like 10 tasks in one day that I would like.
Wow.
For me, it would be like, oh geez, that would be the whole week. And for her, it was like one day. So like the ability to just focus on the task and then just like commit to like getting every one of them done within that time frame was like one of those special abilities that very few people have, in my mind.
Well, I mean, that's why I think you need to,
including myself.
Well, that's why you have to. That's why we have these systems and tools and techniques to prioritize, and then then you have to generate the habit, I guess. So you can put stuff on your calendar and everything, but you have to actually respect that you're doing that, or whatever technique you're using. So I don't know if it's a superpower. I mean, some people maybe are just naturally good at saying, I have these tasks to do, I'm just going to do it. Other people, it's hard to get motivated. So to get motivation, that's difficult. It's very personal. It's like, how important is it you're doing? Like, if you're doing something because you want to improve your career, or if you're doing something because you have this idea you just need to get out of you and create something, like whatever it is, the reasons you have for doing it, that's part of the process of envisioning like what your side project is. And then the motivation is a very personal thing. All these techniques and stuff I have is mostly just to help me to keep track of it, because one thing that will demotivate me is just not having any idea what to do. Like that's one thing that can demotivate you. So at least I'm removing that obstacle. But the fundamental motivation is, I don't know, it's still hard. It's very personal. It kind of depends on what it is you're trying to accomplish. But I find that what's motivating me lately is thinking about how little time there is. And like, if I want something done, I have to do it now. But at the same time, I have to make sure that I am not burning myself out. So I'm also focused on proper sleep. Trying to get a good sleeping.
What's your planned sleep schedule from now on?
Well,
because I assume there's consistency is required here.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get it consistent. So it hasn't been consistent for a long time. I have a difficult time falling asleep, so I'm trying different things. I found that obviously cutting back on caffeine. I use Dingus on my HomePod to play white noise. That kind of helps me at night a little bit, because other people try different things. Some people like listen to some podcast or watch like a YouTube, like a show on Netflix is not that interesting, and then fall asleep. I've tried those things; they don't work for me. I get too invested.
I feel like the light source is part of the problem, right? Like you want to make
you
it
want
as
to sure
dark
it's
as
dark
possible.
Yeah. But I'm trying to go to bed at the same time, and I use like the Apple tools for this too. I use the health app. I set up a bedtime, whatever, sleep schedule, and then it gives you an alert that says, "Oh, it's time for you to wind down." And if when I follow it helps.
Like, are you in bed? Not to get too personal, but are you in bed like before 10, or are you like because like usually like there's like I assume there's like that REM sleep thing, right? So you want to get in bed early to get your rhythm. Your I guess there's like a concentrated period of time between like what I'm sure I'm butchering it, but something like 10 to 2 or something, right? Like the optimal time frame for when to get the best sleep, and then everything else is like bonus, right? And then so like you want to get in earlier than say midnight, but then not maybe you don't feel like getting that early, right?
Yeah,
I want to get work done.
Yeah, I'm trying to move my wake up time earlier. Like the goal would be like like right now it's like 7. I would prefer it to be like 6 or 6:30 or something, like really early if I can. But that's tough because. But what my problem is my default sleeping bedtime is like 1 a.m. or whatever. Like if I look at the data, so I track the data with my Apple Watch, and then I use like Sleep Plus, I can look at it. And if I look at the data, it says that I basically don't fall asleep till after 1 a.m. most times, and it's like that's not working out well. So my problem is it says falling asleep, and then I try the white noise thing, and I try a consistent bedtime and cutting back on the caffeine during the day. And I mean, some of this is just personal, issues. If you have trouble sleeping, whatever it is, you have to identify it and fix it. But getting on a sleep schedule and getting up at the same time every day is, and I'm like inching towards the goal of being really consistent about it. That is very helpful for you in life, because, what really sucks is when I wake up, I'm tired because I didn't get enough sleep, or if I don't wake up on schedule and, I oversleep or something. And then, it's like you're not getting a good start on your day. You're not getting your stuff done. Like if you have to commute or whatever, that's annoying. When I used to commute downtown, that was the thing that made me get up on time. And so, except that it would also be terrible because it was like I had to get up so much earlier than work started, which means like when I was commuting every day, if I had trouble getting to sleep, there was no opportunity to like sleep in an extra hour or something, because I had to go catch a train, because I had to get up to get the train so early anyway. But if I work at home, as work starts a certain time, and I'm trying to get up well in advance of that, so there's a little bit of buffer room if it's a bad night. But consistent sleep pattern helps, I think, a lot. The more consistent I've been lately, the healthier I felt, and better I felt, and more energy I had to do side project stuff in the evening.
I don't know. What is your sleep schedule like, Aaron? Is it erratic, or is it erratic for you, Aaron, or is it consistent? You're like the athlete on our team.
No, it definitely helps when I get exercise.
Yes.
If I don't, then can't sleep.
That's actually true.
Oh.
I've been doing more exercise, and that really does help.
Wait, so you exercise before you go to sleep, or you exercise
Not
way
too
before?
soon before, but it's like if I just like don't exercise at all for a day, then I'm just like, oh
And
Yeah.
what is
I have
that?
like too much
Is that-
energy and I can't sleep.
Right.
Is that weights, or is that like is that cardio that we're in that sense? And is it
I
like
do
in the
mostly
morning or in the
cardio
evening?
stuff, but it's all that's all depends on what you're trying to do.
And that's in the evening or in the morning? Because I've always heard like if you do it in the morning, that helps rev your engine up. That's one of the key things of revving your engine up to get you in the mode of waking up early or being.
Yeah, it's just
it's better
hard.
for you in the morning.
Yeah,
from what I
It's hard in the
understood.
if you can do it, if you can get up that early, but usually I end up.
I did it this morning,
doing-
but I lifted weights this morning, and then I was sore and
right.
and
If
tired.
you do the wrong thing too early, and then you're just exhausted the rest of the day.
Like I was
Right.
tired already because I didn't sleep well. Apparently, I thought I was fine last night. I went to bed on time, but then I woke up tired and I look at my data in the app, and I'm like, what the hell happened? I didn't sleep well at all. I was like tossing and turning all night, and so I woke up a
Yeah.
little tired. And then I did the workout, and then I was like really tired. So it kind of backfired a little bit at first, but then I felt better. Took a shower.
The saddest thing is like the best sleep I've ever had in my life, or at least the way I felt it was when I was like a school night. And long story short, without getting into too much details, I drank like half a bottle of cognac.
Oh, wow, that helps you
Um,
sleep.
And I was like, I don't like when I was going to bed, I was like, obviously I was pretty wasted at that point, but
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't even know how I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. This is brutal. And I
And
go to bed and I wake up and I've never felt so refreshed in my entire life.
Wow. That's like the opposite of alcohol with any normal person. Normally, I try not to drink at night because
was
the
just
alcohol
like-
it disrupts my sleeping
I-
pattern.
I don't know how to describe it. It was like you wake up
You
and
blackout
feel,
drunk and got refreshed. Like
You feel
You
feel
sleep
like
for
a
20
brand new
hours or
person.
something.
I know. How many
No,
hours?
this was like midnight or like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m.
Were you
and
like
I was
20?
Oh, I can't
Okay,
disclose
you're
that
pretty young.
part.
You're pretty young though.
Very young. Let's just
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, maybe when you're younger it works. I mean, one of the things is avoiding caffeine and avoiding alcohol helps. I know this is like the
This
old
was-
man
this was-
podcast today.
I'm pretty sure this was like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I went to bed. And I was like, "Oh, I'm screwed." My
When did you
parents
get
are
up?
gonna
Like
kill me.
6, 7?
Yeah, I had to go to school, so like
Oh, wow.
6 o'clock, 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, "Oh, I'm
Wow.
all right."
I don't know.
Yeah.
It helps if you're young. That helps too. Energy. That's the
guess.
other thing. I mean, it's part of time. As you get older, it gets harder to do everything. It's harder. I mean, you have more commitments, more issues. You have family problems, stuff maybe, but just getting enough sleep and getting exercise, recovering from, like being able to deal with sleep deprivation just gets harder over time. Because
Mhm.
when you're young, it's just with most things, your body is a little more resilient. So, you gotta be a little bit more. You gotta use wisdom as you get older to offset the lack of, I guess, built-in freshness. Being young,
Sure.
freshness.
Sure. Well,
Wrong word, but I can't think of a proper word right now. Aaron just crack it up. That's the goal. Crack Aaron up. I was fresh, and then I got older. Now I'm just like a rotting corpse.
oh my goodness,
Ooh,
we're not there yet.
too
We're
far.
not there yet.
No,
all
we're
right?
still pretty young.
Yeah.
Ish.
Speaking of knowing when to quit early, we should
Yeah.
probably
We should wrap it
finish
up.
this up.
So hopefully though, people got something useful out of my tips there and my ramblings about time running out. And
Yeah, I need to read that book.
Slack them and post the notes.
yeah, I'll post the notes.
That's all we have for today. You can learn more about Philly Cocoa at phillycocoa.org. There you'll find links to our Slack group, meetup schedule, and contact info. If you're feeling generous, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your podcast platform of choice is, and share us with all your developer friends. And one more thing. I don't actually have a one more thing, so I'm just going to promote AzamSharp.school.
Nice. Not a
As a-
sponsor.
Not a sponsor, promotion. He is currently having 2 workshops that you can sign up for $50, which is a steal. Swift Data or Data, depending on where you're from. Fundamentals. April 6th at 11 a.m. To 2 p.m. Central Time. Looks like it's a very good way to get into understanding how Swift data works in conjunction with CloudKit. So actually, that's probably a really nice one. I probably should consider that one.
I watched one of his. I don't know if it came from this. I watched a video he posted on YouTube.
Mhm.
I think it was YouTube recently about that because I was looking to do Swift data with CloudKit. Apparently, it's very straightforward.
Right.
But when I have a question about how to use a framework like that, I actually do go to Asm's resources first. He's not actually sponsoring the podcast, YouTube.
Not at all. He actually even has a section there for testing. And you know how I feel about testing. But you know something? Maybe it's because I don't understand the fundamentals of testing.
Yeah, he has some great stuff on testing.
Amazingly enough, he also has an introduction to testing in iOS using Swift.
Oh my God, I should read that.
Did you like that? That's on April 27th at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. And that is also $50. It talks about, he's going to talk about unit testing, mocking, integration testing, and end-to-end testing. I mean,
nice.
If you want to learn how to test because somehow you're masochistic about your life.
I was actually just thinking today, I need to write some tests around this code I was writing today. I literally was like, I literally wrote my notes. I wrote my notes today at the end of the day. I was like, need to write some tests because this is complicated. I was like, this is kind of complicated. I need to write some tests.
I swear, I'm too much when it comes to that thing. Anyway, but yes, again, azamsharp.school is the website to go to. And yeah, shout out to you, Azam Muhammad.
Yes.
All right. Well, till next time, good luck on your own developer journey. We will cheer for you always.
They don't even have arms.